hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is our 21st episode of A Girl Like Me Live, which is an interactive streaming series that we hold here on Facebook. It streams here on our Facebook and YouTube pages where we talk about different wellness topics related to women and HIV. I'm so happy to be joined today by Mrs. Connie L. Johnson. I've heard so much about you, and I can't wait to just delve into this conversation. So I want to first ask you if you could please just introduce yourself, your any affiliations, and how are you connected to the Well Project?
First of all, hi, and I'm so glad to be here. So I'm Connie Johnson. I have been living with HIV since 2002, so this will be 20 years that I have been living with HIV. I am from Orangeburg, South Carolina, and I started with the Well Project as a blogger in 2012. And since then, I have joined them on panel discussions at conferences, and just been it's been kind of like an extended community, extended family, and support as women living with HIV. And so, it's been very instrumental in me, becoming just who I am. I am the founder of Growing Into Greatness, which is a nonprofit organization based here in South Carolina. And that's who I am.
Oh, it's so great to meet you, and I think this conversation today is going to be impactful. I think I'm going to learn a lot. I don't know, it's just going to be great. So we're talking health disparities, health inequities, and HIV.
Yeah.
So, what is a health disparity? What are health inequities? How could you put that into terms?
So I would define a health disparity as any issue, whether it be any issue that hinders someone from being their full selves, from operating in the fullness of their health, whether it be emotional, mental, physical, anything that hinders that on a social level, on an economic level. Yeah, that's how I kind of describe that. Yeah.
Yeah, so anything that like hinders that. So we were talking a little bit before this, and I can remember, going to school and finally having the language, the words to be able to describe what it was I experienced on a daily daily basis. Like the poverty and things that to the outside you get judged a little bit, but when you're in your own community, it's just the norm.
Right.
Things that you do, just to get by. Um, and being able to finally put words and be able to understand how the system that we live in affects our health, how we live, and everything. I was diagnosed with HIV in the rural South. I'm not sure where you were diagnosed. Is it the
Also in the South. I was in Columbia, South Carolina when I was diagnosed.
How was your access to care when you got diagnosed? That's what I want to ask.
Access to care was because Columbia is the capital of the state. It had like the best care possible in the state. So access to care wasn't so much of an issue for me when I was diagnosed. However, um, living in a more rural area now is very much so telling when it comes to um, limitations on access to care in a rural setting. There are fewer clinics, and I also had the experience of being cared for in Chicago. So to have all of these experiences, like I can, like the differences are just glaring when you go from one area to another. And yeah, mostly here in the rural South, um, care is very much so limited. Resources are limited, and yeah, something needs to give, to be honest.
Absolutely. Like, I don't know. I've lived down south too. I live in Philadelphia now. So living down south in the rural part of down south, because like you say, Columbia is like the capital. So resources are going to be there. But when you get further and further away from it, sometimes those resources dissipate. And I was living an hour and a half outside of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And the closest clinic was like 45 minutes away by car. And there were, like, if I didn't have a car, how would I have been able to get there to get the care that I needed so that I could stay well? And I know that that situation isn't unique or particular to me. So many people, one of our cast members brought that up actually for today's talk, the barrier of transportation. Um, Not having access to that could limit your access to so many other things in life that could benefit you and increase your quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I recently got a car maybe 2 or 3 months ago after not having a car for like almost 3 years. And it was the hardest 3 years ever because you think about your basic needs and how you get to them, particularly here in the South, like just getting to the grocery store. You want to talk about healthy food. So a lot of time, because I don't have a ride to the grocery store, I'm eating out of gas stations, which is very unhealthy. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't support my well-being at all. Um, Getting to and from the doctor's office. So we do have a transportation um, system set up at my clinic, but the transportation only runs on certain days at certain times. So I'm trying to maneuver my appointments around the transportation. Like it was hectic. It was really hectic being without a car down here, and I believe my health was impacted by not having access to transportation. And I know, like you said, it's not just that issue isn't just relegated to me. Like there are a lot of people who have the same issue, and I'm fortunate enough that I actually live within the city limits. Like I only live maybe about 5 or 6 miles from my clinic. There are people who live 30 and 40 miles, in a more rural area, who don't have that access. So yes, transportation is a major, major issue, and I'm hoping that at some point, when as we're talking about solutions and increasing the wellness and care of people living with HIV, that we start putting that kind of stuff into the budget. like like there needs to be transportation, even if it's like just a van and paying for somebody to drive that van whenever the clinic is open. Like those are the kind of like practical solutions to, I think, a lot of people's issues.
Like, as you just said that, I was like, that's a great solution. It sounds so easy.
It
But
does, doesn't it?
so what's the barrier there? Like, why don't those things connect?
I could say for myself, before I had this experience of not having a car, I believe that when you're not in the situation, it doesn't you have no idea of what it's like. So when you get in your car every day and it cranks up and you go where you need to go, like for me, I love going to the grocery store because I'm going on my own time. Nobody's in the parking lot waiting for me. I'm not on anybody else's time. So just something as simple as being able to go to the grocery store for myself, by myself, is major. But if you like before having this experience, that wasn't even an issue for me. That was nowhere on my radar that this was an issue for people. So I think that a lot of people who make the decisions about where funds go and how funds are spent and how much goes where, they're not they're not aware, I don't believe, of the basic needs and necessities of the people that they serve. And so yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. You took the words right out of my mouth. Like, I feel like a lot of the people who are making the policies, procedures, letting the money go, sometimes, they don't know, they don't understand. And so that's where that has always been my aspiration, my goal is to be able to serve as kind of a bridge or a gap to that, because it's real life going on in these communities. Like HIV is not the only thing I got going on. So I can't spend all day here in this clinic. I just can't do it. Waiting for
Come
you
on. Like I made my appointment for 9 a.m. for a reason, yo.
stuff to do. So I'm grateful. I had an appointment this morning. They got me in and out of there. I'm grateful for that. But at a certain time, it's like, yo, I feel like you're not appreciating my time. Like I don't have nothing else going on. And then I was having an issue. We talked about this a little bit too. The support groups. For any type of services that I was looking for when I got back to Philly, that's one of the things that they offer is support groups. But they was holding these joints at like 1 o'clock on a
Man.
Wednesday. I'm like, yo, I got a job. I need support, but I have a job too that I
Right.
need to go to, and they make me request
Yep.
time off to come do this. Like this is this is not a benefit to me. It's not helping me at all.
Yeah.
Um, and so sometimes, this HIV journey could feel lonely without having that support or having people that understand. And how do you feel about support groups? Have you ever been?
Yeah. Yeah. So support groups. Let's talk about it. All right. So I started out in the support group. When I was first diagnosed, like the support group that I was in, like it really helped me a lot. Like to see women who were living with HIV, who were thriving and, being good moms to their kids and, really living, like was very much so helpful. But 20 years into this, and all that I have now is a support group. That's not what I need at this point in my journey. And so I think the support group is very much so beneficial for the newly diagnosed woman, who comes in and needs that support and needs those folks to wrap their arms around her and have that space to be able to express herself and and be around other women. But it can't be the end all be all, and the only source of community and support for women. It is just not. Um, I don't even know the word. It's just not conducive to a woman who is wanting to thrive. Because a lot of times, and I'll be honest, a lot of times support groups also are like very heavy, and it can get dark because you're laying out your so a lot of times we're laying out our toughest moments, like our hardest, aspects of our lives, and it gets heavy. And so I wonder honestly how beneficial that really is to the mental, to know that you're going in this space and it's very possible that it's gonna get sad. Um, so yeah, I just think that there has to be something else attached to the support group, I guess, paradigm that we're in when it comes to doing things for women living with HIV. Can I give a example of something that I've seen and how it works? So um while I went to Kenya in 2012, and there was an organization there, and the women they had support groups, um, but the support group was a small part of a larger program. These women were also learning skills. They were learning candlestick making and cooking, and mosquito net making. They were learning all kinds of different kind of trades and skills in addition to the support group. They were also being taught how to start a business in addition to the support group. They were also, and their children were being taken care of in addition to the support group. So I believe the support group is a benefit to women living with HIV, but it to me it being the end all be all, form of support is not cutting it, to be honest.
It ain't cutting it. Is
It's
right.
not cutting
It's,
it.
if we talk about that toolbox, I do feel like that is one tool. For some people, it may be a bigger tool than others. But to be real, Who those who are vulnerable and most impacted by HIV a lot of times. There's HIV is not HIV support is not the thing that I need the most. I need money because I need to
Come
pay
on, come on, come on.
child care because I need somebody to watch my kids so I can
Yeah.
show up and do these, presentations and talks the way that
Mhm.
the community pulls on you too sometimes. Um,
Mhm.
I need therapy, not just
Mhm. Mhm.
support that group. I need
Yeah.
therapy.
Yeah.
And that one, we just had a talk. The last The Girl Like Me live was on navigating mental health. And that
Mm.
can be so hard. Like,
Mhm.
forget just being able to get there, but being able to access it. Like, the insurance that you carry a lot of times, for those of us who have been on state insurance before,
Mhm.
when you on Medicaid, like the providers that the group of providers that you have to pull from, a lot of times aren't it's not a lot of them, and
Right.
everybody's pulling on these same providers.
Right.
So it's not the best.
It's not. It's not. And I believe that people are doing what's been done because they're not sure what else to do. And so I think it's imperative that those of us who are living with HIV and those of us who are walking this walk are are vocal and we say exactly what we need, because I think that people outside of this experience who who make the decisions and have the power to make these decisions are making it from an uninformed space, or a very much so kind of academic space. We know all the facts and the figures, and we know the I'm just gonna say it, the head knowledge of what's happening. But when it really comes down to the boots on the ground um, experience of what this thing is, our needs a lot of times go unmet, like you were talking about. Like, it's hard for me to remain in a healthy mental space when I don't know if my lights are going to get cut off or not today. I don't, it's hard for me to maintain a healthy immune system when I don't have any food in the fridge. So these are like real life issues that are impacting people living with HIV that do not get addressed enough.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've been in the transition before of like having absolutely nothing and trying to transition off of welfare. That is, it makes me so sad. I want to cry, y'all. Why is this one I want to cry on? But moving from TANF, which isn't very much money at all, but the way that they make you jump through hoops to get that little bit of money, it's like that effort would be much better applied somewhere else. But okay, I'll do what y'all
Right.
need me to so I can get this money in this child care. Then now I'm out here looking for a job, but now I need a job that is going to make more than the food stamps that I'm getting because y'all about to cut them off. And
Hmm.
hopefully this job comes with medical because I might make just too much, to receive the medical. And as a person living with HIV, that determines a lot. Like that impacts a
Yep.
lot. Like where I'll go live. I'm not moving. I feel so safe right here because I have my medical figured out. I'm scared to go somewhere else because I've been in places where medication is not always available if you don't have insurance. I asked the lady today, are you sure if I don't have insurance, I would be able to be covered?
Yeah.
Because it's always in the back of my mind
Yep.
what could happen. Worst case
Yeah.
scenario. So, I don't know. It hurts sometimes, but I see that everybody don't live like this. You
Nope.
know, everybody doesn't have this experience, and
Nope.
that must, maybe they're not aware, but it must also feel good. It has to because on this side, it doesn't feel the greatest.
Yeah. It doesn't. It doesn't. And we were kind of talking about it before. It's like it's almost like you don't know that this isn't a way of life, or you don't like there is another way. Like there's a whole sector of a population that doesn't ever deal with any of these things. Like they're the welfare and the well-being of a certain segment of the population. This isn't even on their radar, but this is like life for millions of Americans. And yeah, it's not a good look. It's not a good look at all. At all.
And I bring this up often, a statement that has really stuck with me from one of the best therapists I ever had. She talks about HIV, is at the tip of that iceberg, it's what you can see, but all of those other things up underneath of that iceberg, a lot of us living with HIV probably share in a lot of that. Those different traumas and experiences, and just how we getting it every day that kind of led to that diagnosis. And the fact that we
Hmm.
are able to pinpoint it down, that much, and then we
Yep.
still experiencing it, it kind
Yep.
of it make you feel a certain type of way. But as agents of change, we are here to
Yep.
continue to be able to have these conversations and be loud about it, because I know I can't be quiet. It's not just for me, it's for the other people, my people in my community. Like, it's not just me. I'm just a small portion of what I experience on a daily. And
Yeah.
everybody doesn't always have the opportunity to share spaces with people that can make change. Like, no, I'm going to use my voice, and I'm going to always talk like this because I'm going to always talk like this. That
Yeah.
is, as a product of my environment, and not, to be judged. Even that whole, thing when we talk about systems. I'm about to jump into the comments, y'all, because there's been so many Oh no, I'm cutting out. Am I here?
Yeah. You're here now. So with you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can see it on my end.
Yeah.
But I was saying the stress of having a code switch throughout the
Oh.
day. Other
Ah.
people, they don't understand it. Like, you don't have that pressure, that stress
Yeah.
to
Well, and
have to
I'll be
carry it.
honest, I've stopped. I've stopped. I stopped doing it. Yeah, I quit. I quit. I'm just gonna be Connie. Like I quit trying to be anything else but Connie, and just let the chips fall to me and let people think what they want to think. Because it doesn't make me any less intelligent. It doesn't make me any less, passionate. It doesn't make me any, it doesn't change anything about me. It might change your perception, but your perception is not my business. Like that has nothing to do with me. I wanted to go right back for a second though when we're talking about the vulnerabilities. I did not realize that I was vulnerable to HIV or how I was vulnerable to HIV until I went through Common Threads. Um, I did Common Threads in 2009, so 7 years after being diagnosed. And if you're when you're diagnosed, to be honest, for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but I was like, what did I do wrong? You carry that shame and that guilt of like, what it is that you do, and how it contributes to you being positive. But to learn that the single fact that I was, the daughter of a single mother who worked 2 and 3 jobs at a time, that we moved all the time because we were unstable, because of the economic instability, because of the fact that, like these external factors that were around me that helped shape kind of who I am, had an impact on me being, positive. And so what's that happened for me, it was like, oh, and then it wasn't just me. Like, I'm in a room full of women, and we all got the same, like, what I'm saying? Like, we got all of these commonalities and things in common. And I'm like, hold on, something is not right. Something is, so it goes back to that same conversation about, about why we're vulnerable, who's not vulnerable, and how do we get into that lane? like how do we move into that lane so that our kids and our grandkids are no longer vulnerable? So yeah.
Absolutely. By the time I had graduated college, I felt like I went to like 14 different schools, and most of them were elementary. You know what I'm saying? So the impact that that has now on the relationships that I have with people, period. Like I'm not too bent on
Come
it.
on. Come
I'm ready
on.
because I done did this over and over again.
Yeah.
I'm
Like
prepared
I
for it.
still won't unpack. I will not unpack. No
For
matter where
mine,
I move, I am not that box over there is gonna stay back because I just don't know when
it
it's gonna
might
be
happen
time to
again.
go. Right. We might have to go again.
And you know, moving, you get that down to a science. You hate
Yeah.
it, but you know how to do it because we don't have to
Exactly.
do it so much. So we here, we
Yep.
are here. I'm gonna jump back into these comments a little bit. Bridget said that as she gets older too, she stops code switching as much. She said, "I do it less as I age." You gonna get this, Bridget? I love that. um Alicia, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She was talking about how she was able to come up with like a support group that happened on in the evenings and weekends, I believe. But they said that they had not done it before because they did not have anyone to run it. So staffing seems to be an
Put
issue
that
there.
in the budget. How
That's
about
the
that? Pay somebody an extra $2 an hour to run the yeah. How about it? Let's try that.
way. Oh, Olivia, she was talking about systems create conditions in which people struggle and have needs, then punishes them for having them. Yes.
Mm.
Okay. And then she also said everything that is coming up in this conversation is why having folks at planning tables who have actually experienced the concerns being planned for is essential so people getting the care and support they actually need. Not an add-on or an afterthought, essential. Or else it kind of
Mm.
makes one wonder who or for what service provision is supposed to be for.
Ooh, can we touch it though? Can we can we touch it? Okay. So I have always well, so I've made observations since I've been, positive and operating in these spaces of, receiving care and service providers and that kind of thing. And I get it. You want quality people working. You want to make sure that the people who you hire and um, who are responsible for providing these services have top-notch education. And we all know, as people, as two women who have master's degrees, that that is expensive, and you want to pay people well. However, what I find is, and I think I said this before, what I find is a lot of the times the money that is trickled that is allocated towards HIV services goes all in mostly into salaries, which does not trickle down to the people who need those funds the most. And so that's something that I think needs to be looked at. Um, because if your providers and your case managers are the ones who are reaping the economic benefit, what are we really doing? Like, yeah. So we need those funds to trickle down to, and I don't some of these events that happen that cost hundreds and thousands of dollars around HIV/AIDS, I can find a million other ways to spend that money. I really could. Like I could. And I don't know, I think as the economic system as a whole in this nation is shifting, I think that we're gonna have to, as the HIV community, we're gonna have to really sit down and look at how it is we are spending these dollars, and if it's really beneficial to the people who need that, need those funds the most.
Being now, okay, I've always considered myself an advocate, been positive 14 years, and it may not have been like online advocacy or anything, but I've always been an advocate in my community. And now getting a chance because I have become more public, I've gotten a chance to sit at some tables that I haven't been at before. And while I'm grateful that I get to be at these tables, you kind of get to peep game a little bit to see how stuff is working and how frustrating it is to be a person living with HIV, We talk about cure this, cure that. That takes resources. And to sit through 3 hour meetings where we done said the same thing over and over and over again, and nothing new is really being realized. And then we're going to follow this meeting up with another meeting where
Hmm.
we don't really
And then we go break off into smaller groups and have meetings about that meeting.
like, yo, I wonder how much time this is taking, how much of the resources, like, and it becomes offensive at some point. You know what I'm saying? We not getting the work done.
Yep.
And it it made me feel some type of way. So being able to get those funds trickled down, I think would be an excellent solution where we could all, benefit from.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, even like for me, even if it were to somehow send some folks, whether it's GED classes, whether you send somebody to technical school, whether you help some, because we talked about Hopper and we're talking about housing. I think we're gonna get there. Whether you paying somebody rent for the month, whether there's funds available for utility bills if somebody needs it. Like these are basic needs, like basic, the very basic necessities of life. And they are going absolutely ignored, and we get a support group and a pizza party. Um,
Like, I love the idea of sending people to get these trades, but it don't even have to go that far. And I'm grateful for the position that I've been blessed to be in. The mentorship piece is so important. Like, there are skills
mhm.
that these people already have that they hold, that could be passed on and help benefit, the next person, a
Yeah.
new advocate coming up, a newly diagnosed person who wants to become, an advocate in their community. Those skills, that grant writing piece, that,
Mhm.
the leadership. And I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for where I am because I feel like finally I reached it. But that's a resource that not everyone
Yeah.
has access to. And so
Well, and something that just came to mind too is like what is the thought process when you think about women living with HIV if you're making these decisions? Do you even believe that these women have the capacity to become something else? Do you believe, because you won't invest in it if you don't believe that they do? So I think a lot of it is stigma, and it is stigma that comes even honestly within the service providers, you know, of what it is that is thought about and believed about women living with HIV. And so we really honestly can't have some of these other conversations until we all agree that each person that comes into your office or each person that comes into your space is not only, a human, but a human that's deserving of becoming their best selves. And it should be your mission and your job to help them do that because you are now being paid this salary to do X, Y, and Z. And so that's another conversation I think that needs to be had is we need to talk about what stigma is like within, the service providers circle.
absolutely. I mean, that's something that was also brought up from our kid was how certain facilities can be stigmatizing. Absolutely. Like even within the HIV community, which is crazy to me. I don't know if it should be so crazy, but I've had experiences within the HIV place that it's like, yo, this supposed to be my safe place. Like this supposed to not feel like the outside. And right now, I'd rather get back out there because of how y'all treating me in here.
Yep.
That make you not want to go back. Like, and if I don't go back, then it kind of make me feel like I'm giving up on myself, and I don't want to do that. I need you to kind of, to get to my the best quality of my physical health and all of that. But Johnny, I don't want to come back because of how you done treated me in here. And that spout and feeling like, being a black woman living in the inner city and a lot of the providers that are treating you, you could tell don't have the same experience. This kind of speaks back to Bridget's point of having mentors that look like you. I feel like also having, providers that look like you and they understand, because then you will understand maybe why I'm making certain choices that I'm making, or what has led me to this. And I don't get that all the time. But whew, this that could be a whole nother
Mm-hmm.
conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see. This is great from Michelle. How does health disparities and inequities cater to white supremacy in terms of HIV information sharing, prevention, and treatment options for Black
We
women?
got a whole nother hour. Like like we need another hour. Jeez. Okay. So all right. White supremacy, prevention, treatment, and what was that? What else was that? Read it again for me.
Okay. How does health disparities and equities cater to white supremacy in terms of HIV information sharing, prevention, and treatment options for Black women and girls living with HIV?
All right. So the debate for me, the way that I view white supremacy, it is it's a systemic um like continuum to ensure that there is always a population that is in power, and that there's a population that is not. And so um, that's the basis for me for white supremacy. When we look at that on a micro level, specifically for women and girls, Black women and girls living with HIV, or women and girls, period, who are vulnerable to HIV, it is my it is my belief that in that whole hierarchy and power structure of white supremacy, Black women and girls are we're the base. Like we are the baseline. And I believe that there's enough happening around us, and sometimes we don't even realize that it's happening, um, to maintain that order, to maintain that hierarchy. And and how that impacts HIV, we can look at it from a historical lens. When I presented research a few weeks ago, or maybe a few months ago now, just laid out the fact that Black women are the mule of America. Like we are the ones who have carried the nation literally on our shoulders. And and not only have we carried the nation on our shoulders, if we ever complain, then we are a problem, and we are meant to shut up, and we are meant to code switch and alter ourselves to make to fit into a mold that never wanted us from the gate, other than our labor, whether it's mental labor, physical labor. That's all that's ever been accepted from us. And so so that also goes into that question of, as a provider, how do you still see my labor? Do you still see me as this person who was here to serve? And so when we're talking about HIV, and we're talking about treatment, and we're talking about prevention, if you see me as less than a human, if you see me as just someone who is here to serve you and help you maintain an order, um, and a hierarchy, then it makes sense that we don't have transportation. It makes sense that that the rent doesn't get paid. It makes sense that that there are families who don't have enough to eat. It makes sense that that women live, Black women particularly, live in poverty. And so until, I think, as a nation, I think enough of us scream and say, I'm not your labor, you know, and that I am a human, then we will probably continue to see, what we're seeing. Yeah,
Right.
because my value is wrapped up not in who I am, but what I can do for you. And if you don't see that I'm capable, that I have any, if I don't do anything for you, and you see me as a liability rather than an asset, then we're never going to be able to see eye to eye, and you're never going to do what's necessary to provide the need.
Well, darn, I want to snap. I want to cry. That was so deep. That was so deep. Like, that could have either been the beginning or end of this conversation because that's so deep. It makes sense. Like, if you want to keep me that way, then yeah, and I'm not going to have access to the resources, and I'm not going to be put in a position to thrive. You brought up that master's degree and the cost earlier. In full transparency, this year I started looking for a house a little bit, and my feelings was hurt, majorly hurt, because I got the money saved and I got the credit and everything, but now it's time to go see how much of a house I qualify for. When I drive through these neighborhoods, and see these big beautiful houses, I'm like, oh my god, how did they get this? What type of job you gotta do to get there? But now, because of the student loan debt that I'm in, that kind of
I don't even want to talk about it. It's like la 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 la. I don't even see it. I don't, like you don't even exist.
until it's time to obtain a resource, some assets that the people that I went to school with, I went to a majority white school. A
Mhm.
lot of them, they was showing up to freshman year in the nicest cars, BMWs and Hummers and all of that. And I pulled up in my little joint that, got repoed out the lot. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I imagine that them same people probably had the money to afford to go to school. And while that was something that I wanted to do, I couldn't necessarily afford it. And I got it now, but it still didn't put me on day level. Like, I'm still behind.
That was brought up also in my in the research we were talking about. They said that that the statistics say that black women are the most educated population in the nation. However, we are still behind when it comes to the dollars and the cents. So make it make sense. Like a lot of my colleagues, I also went to a PWI for my master's. A lot of my colleagues came in because they had social capital, because they were connected to some program that was going to pay for their education. And all they had to do was work for this organization for 2 years after. But not I, said the cat. I am laden with this student loan debt, and like barely, like you almost even don't want to work because the way that the payments are gonna be set up, like they go snatch the check anyway. You know what I mean? So it's yeah, yeah. So that's why I say, even when I'm talking about service providers and case managers, like I get it, because I'm in that same boat when it comes to the student loan debt. But then at the same time, it's like, if this money is supposed to be spent in a way that that helps people, and we're still feeling the brunt of being positive in a nation that that has no love for those who live in poverty, then what are we doing? Like, we're just spinning our wheels, and I'm tired of spinning.
Yeah, get dizzy a little bit.
Yeah, man.
I want to go back to Bridget's comment. That joint was deep. She said, we are in trouble in terms of white supremacy. As soon as white folk in power start trying to call slavery involuntary relocation, it's a wrap for us being visible and valuable as a people. Not to mention taking away our basic rights to body autonomy. It felt pretty messed up to be a black woman sometimes. Like, don't get me wrong, I love being a black woman. We talked about this before, because you don't even realize that you don't realize that something ain't right, or that your experiences could be not what everyone else is experiencing. I'm just used to carrying all this weight. I'm used to making a way when it ain't no way. I'm used
Right,
to
right.
just making it happen. And to see that that's not everybody's reality is like, oh well, what is like over there? Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Even you the concept of work. Oh my God, my mom was a nurse and my dad was a laborer. And so I'm used to them, working many hours throughout the week, and somebody's back feet hurt. My dad's all burnt up because he was a welder, all of that. I'm used to complaining to go to work. I'm used to it being something that I dreaded. And the fact now
Mhm.
that I've gotten access to resources that have provided me, to not have that experience, I'm so grateful. but it feels real salty. Like y'all been doing this. People been, being able to work from home. People have had the ability to, pay their bills. Y'all been doing this. But meanwhile, I'm out here, barely making it, working my little hourly job, being harassed by, upper management and doing all this other, crazy stuff. And it didn't have to be this hard.
Yeah.
I ain't know where to pull on though. I didn't know where to go to because, you fill out applications, you do all the right things, get the education and do all of that. And still somehow I can't get there. That is
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take my medicine today, but I don't know, what the outlook for the rest of my life is.
Yeah. I I absolutely feel you. I I went to the beach a few weeks ago. I was so excited. Like I said, I hadn't had a car in three years, so to actually be in a car and be able to drive the 70 miles to get to the beach for the day, like I felt like I was on top of the world. So the day after I come back from, I go to the beach. I stayed. It was a day trip. I went to the beach, grabbed some lunch, came back to Orangeburg. The next day, I'm out and about, and I overhear a conversation between two families. And these two families are Caucasian, and they're talking about their trips to the beach. One of them just got back from the beach. The other one is on their way to the beach, but they're going for a week at a time. Like their children, they're taking grandma with them to keep the kids. And I'm sorry, I'm transitioning so I can plug in my laptop. But they're doing this, and I'm just like, why do I have to only take a day trip? What happened to my week at the beach and to be able to go, like, so it was just another glaring observation that everybody doesn't live the way that I live. And I had to grapple within myself about the fact that I am worthy of that kind of life. I am worthy of being able to afford, the not only to have the things that I need, but some of what I want. Like I'm worthy of it, and I deserve it. And that within itself has been a journey just to get to that place to be able to say and declare that not only do I want that for myself, but I am worthy of it and I deserve it.
Yes, yes. That whole like that culture of poverty is something serious. Like I coming up out of there. Oh my gosh! I hope one day to for it to be a distant memory, but even going to go buy stuff for yourself. Sometimes you need to look presentable, but like it's a guilt.
Yo, yo, but
Guilt that comes with it.
can I please? I just need like $20 to go to the laundromat. I wanna wear clean clothes,
Yes,
and I
some
wanna
people
be.
don't go.
I wanna buy Tide. Like
Yes,
I don't want to just buy Wave all the time. Like I, I want to. I'd like to buy some Tide. I like the little pods. I think they're cute. Like
no, I'm so embarrassed. Not really. I'm not embarrassed to say this. So I had to convince somebody the other day. No, I really know how to wash clothes, but it was just that when I was poor and didn't have any money to go to the laundromat, which everybody don't go to the laundromat neither. That's an experience by itself. Okay,
it is. It is.
so I didn't have money, so I would put everything in one load and just wash that one load. So now I know how to wash clothes, but I've just been conditioned from being poor and having to go to the laundromat with
Yep.
$10. Like
Yep.
I get it.
Yep.
So, oh my gosh, this is such a deep conversation. Um, and so talking about that, Bridget, she brought up the point of, housing instability. And
Hmm.
affordability gaps are growing as our food instabilities. If you're
Hmm.
worried about where your next meal is coming from or where you're going to lay your head, your physical and medical health is furthest from your mind. Those things need to be addressed immediately on a broader federal level. Absolutely.
Well, and what's happening, I think, is I think there's an awakening happening as inflation continues to affect more families. Your $100 that you used to spend at the grocery store a week is not taking you as far as it once did, and I think that as more people have these experiences, I think there'll be not I think there'll be more empathy and there'll be more consideration to those who have been living this way for a very long time. It's almost like you don't know what this party is like until you're invited. And so now it's almost like a majority of the country has been invited to this poverty party, and it's not fun. It's not hot. It's not the move. And so I think we're actually seeing some of that happening and unfolding as food and housing and gas prices continue to increase.
Yeah. And with all of those stressors, it it makes it sometimes it feel like a bad situation get worse. Like you done figured out how to navigate through this bad situation, and now they done added another layer to it. Like I've already figured out. I don't know how well I'm doing, but I've figured out how to navigate through this world, being black, being a woman living with HIV. Poor, all of that. And as I try to get out of one rut, it seems like another one it was waiting on me. But I feel like as a community that I do have support here, and I feel like that has made
Yeah.
the biggest difference. Not a support group, but the support that I get from the people that are in the community.
Well, and I can say too, I believe that also, like, I'm not, because I have all of this experience in being, of being poor, I'm not fretful. Like I'm not. I'm just like, welcome, y'all. Like, like we gonna be okay, y'all. It's gonna be all right. We don't get in a tizzy. It's gonna be okay. Like, poor isn't the worst thing that can happen. It's really not. It's really not. But I say all of that to say, like, we're the, as black women who have been, like I said, the labor force and carrying the nation on our shoulders. Guess who has value now, because we know how to survive and make it happen off of nothing. You know what I mean? So that whole thing of the last shall be first and the first shall be last, and that whole thing of turning the thing upside down, like, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. And so um that makes me proud to be a black woman, proud to have been able to stand the test of time, proud to come through a lineage of women who just would not give up, who did not succumb to what was handed to them. And not only did they not succumb to it, they took them scraps and they made beautiful things with it. You know what I'm saying? They made delicious meals with what was given to them, and raised children, and and birthed babies, and did all kind of beautiful things to make sure that we could get here. And now that we here, you're gonna have to hear me. You're gonna have to hear me.
Absolutely not going to do this quietly, and
Yeah.
I'm definitely, the voice. I'm the voice. I get in trouble a lot because of my voice, but I say a lot of those things that people don't want to say, or will keep it as a thought in their head. But I feel like I don't know. I have an opinion, and it matters. Once somebody recognized that my voice mattered, that gave me it empowered me to keep using it. Like, oh, somebody gonna listen. And then as I continued to use it more and more, I realized how much of an agent of change that I have become. And that is because of my community, to be able to bring light to these things that some folks up there probably will never have to experience, or don't
Hmm.
know, anyone that's ever been here. And I'm just so grateful for this community. Let's see if we've touched on everything. Um, let's see. How do we use media more effectively around messaging and activism to inspire people to get involved in their communities?
Use people that look like them. There's an idea. I see commercials, around HIV treatments, and but very rarely do I see anybody that looks like they're having my experience. Like if there is a black woman in, in these, commercials or within media, um, they're not having my experience. And I think it's been done well in the past. So you think about, um, there's a few episodes where of different shows in the, like back in the day where HIV was addressed, like a different world. Like that episode with Tisha Campbell is still like iconic. Um, like tell the stories of like real people. I think our stories are necessary in involving and in recruiting, I think, community to get involved.
Absolutely. I would more than likely, respond more positively to someone that look like me. I got to help make some materials one time for some HIV messaging, and we put little hoop earrings on the girl, and she had little
Yeah.
short haircut and all of that. I was like, okay, like I could see this. I
Yeah, she's fly.
could see this. I loved it so much. Okay, so I just saw the comment flash across the screen about our 3-minute survey. If you all could please fill this out for us, that would continue to make sure that we're having conversations that are meaningful, impactful, and it would just help with the programming. So please, if you could fill that out, it's showing again right here, and it's in the comment section. I think that we have covered almost everything that was submitted. Um, I want to read this comment though. It means disclosing, and a lot of black women are afraid to disclose because of discrimination and stigma. Yes. And that's one thing that I really stepped out on. I want to help decrease the stigma, or just, show the world that we are still people. Like we're women. We are, it's not too much different from me to you. So
Right.
stigma stuff crazy. But did you want to say something?
No, that's true. That is true. Women, there are a lot of women who are afraid of disclosing, because it does it yeah, people are people are still very much so ignorant about HIV, and a lot of times that ignorance hurts.
Definitely. We'll continue, to do the work. And so hopefully, you've provided a lot of solutions by yourself today, Connie.
Whoa, that's what I'm here for.
You provided
That's
seem
what I'm
like
here
a
for.
lot of simple solutions, like have they not been thought about before? But it definitely gives you a lot to think about, and just get into the right tables and getting support to sit at those tables to be able to express this thing. I think is paramount. Well, we're going to. Do you have anything you want to close the conversation with?
No, thank you for having me. I enjoyed the conversation. I'm really really hopeful that things are shifting and changing, and that there will be no longer a need for these kind of conversations in the near future. So,
Oh, God, I think that's all our hopes. Oh, goodness. Well, thank you all for joining us for episode 21 of A Girl Like Me Live. This has been great. Thank you so much, Connie, for coming. Don't forget to fill out that evaluation, y'all, please. And join us again next month for our next episode. Look on our website, www.thewellproject.org, to stay in tune with what that will be and when. And thank you once again. So here we go.